Hello, and welcome back to Spaces or Laces. I'm your host, Jeff Meyer. It is Thursday, October 4th. We have 4 weeks in the book for the NFL and 5 for college football. This week, I want to start off talking about the Penn State-Ohio State game in Happy Valley last weekend. Unfortunately, I wasn't very happy after OSU pulled off the win 27-26. OSU down 12 points in the fourth quarter. Doesn't matter. Comes back and wins at Penn State. As you can see, I have a smile on my face. It only took 5 weeks of college football, but Penn State has its first loss, and boy, am I happy. Hate to admit it, watching the game, I have a few notes from the game. Anyone who watched it would probably say this, and it hurts me to say this. I think Penn State was the better team. I think in that matchup, Penn State had the better athletes, the better overall team. Just watching the game, I thought the entire time Penn State's a better team. And I thought they were going to win. But wouldn't you know it, Penn State with the classic choke at home brings joy to my heart. Brings a lot of joy to my heart. And an obvious point, too, to the game, with Penn State having the better athletes, at the end of the day, Ohio State was the better coach team. When push come to shove, crunch time, Urban Meyer made the correct decisions. James Franklin did not. I thought it was funny in the presser after the game, James Franklin saying, that's an elite school, that's an elite team. We're a great team, but we need to be elite. Essentially saying they're not there yet. The problem is I don't think they're ever going to be there. With James Franklin as your coach. He was subpar in the SEC. He coached at Vanderbilt. And I joked about this with friends a while ago. It's so fitting for Penn State. They bring in a subpar coach expecting the world out of him. He wasn't even 500 in the SEC. I don't know his records and years for Vanderbilt. I just know he coached there, and they were not good, especially in the high-powered, talented SEC. So you bring him in the Big Ten. Big Ten football last couple of years has been impressive, very impressive. So you bring this coach in, I think this is year 4 or 5, can't even remember, but it's been a few years now. He's had time to recruit, and he's recruited well. Penn State has talent. They have a lot of talent. When it comes to the recruiting side of things, James Franklin, he's a hell of a coach, hell of a recruiter. But when you're talking football, decision-making, in-game adjustments, and play calls, he's not quite there. And I told my one friend, I made this comparison. For the Penn State game, it's hard as there in person. Sometimes it's hard to evaluate talent and the speed of the game and certain things when you're in a stadium. You don't have all the angles. You don't have the replay. It's a lot different. But during the Pitt-Penn State game, I really didn't think Penn State was that more talented at Pitt, and I'm obviously biased. I didn't really see it, but I did notice that Pat Narduzzi got outcoached bad by James Franklin. Got outclassed when it comes to coaching. It was very, very apparent, very easy to see, even in the stadium. Some of the decision-making, the in-game adjustments, the halftime adjustments. Penn State came out in the second half and destroyed Pitt. So when you compare them, you look at Urban Meyer to James Franklin to Pat Narduzzi, and that's the one thing that makes me very upset and very concerned for the future of Pitt football. I don't know if they have a future with Pat Narduzzi. He was a great defensive mind at Michigan State. Was a great defensive coordinator for them. Did great things there. But as a head coach, he hasn't really, other than his couple big wins, some big upsets. I mean, he beat Penn State at home 2 years ago in their first matchup between the series that they were going to play, the 4-game series. They won the first game, lost 2. He won at Clemson when Clemson was either 1 or 2 in the nation. Like, he has some quality wins. But as far as game in and game out, I just see him with the top-tier programs, the top-tier coaches. He's getting outcoached. He got outcoached by James Franklin this year. And that's what I want to talk about, getting outcoached. Urban Meyer outcoached James Franklin bad. And that's what I was getting back to my point with, I don't think Penn State can be an elite program with James Franklin. If Urban Meyer is the bar in the Big Ten. And that's another thing with Michigan. I'm getting a little upset with Jim Harbaugh. He hasn't really produced quite like I thought he would. And when you look at the Big Ten, you have Urban Meyer, you have Harbaugh, you have James Franklin. Can't think. I think it's Dan Antonio. I can't always forget his name. For Michigan State coaches, there's some good coaches in the Big Ten. Then you have Wisconsin out there. There's some great coaches, some elite coaches in the Big Ten. I don't think James Franklin fits into that group. He definitely doesn't fit in with Urban Meyer. They were up 12 points at home in a rivalry game, night game, whiteout game. They had the fans. They had the atmosphere. They had a lead, and they couldn't pull it off. I think that speaks volumes. And I didn't even want to get into it, but I'm going to get into it. The 4th and 5 play, fine, here we go. That was one of the worst play calls I've ever seen in my entire life. If you look at the game, like the feel of the game itself, from a coaching standpoint, there were certain things the entire game you were taking advantage of. You had openings, certain plays, they were working. Why did they go to a play that didn't work the entire game? Trace McSorley, I think he threw for like 250 yards. I don't know the stats on my head, but he threw for like 250, something like that. Rushed for over 100 yards. Had a hell of a game. Why did they not put the ball in their best offensive player's hand crunch time? 4th and 5. Let your quarterback make a play. Give him a read option. Let him run. Let him throw. I don't understand that play call. You have to allow your best players to make big plays in big moments. That's what wins football games. And from a coaching perspective, I don't understand how you don't give him the ball. Don't let him win the game for you. It doesn't make any sense to me. You give a zone read play that wasn't working all game. And I can't even remember off the top of my head. I feel like I blacked out in that situation watching that play. I was so amazed. I don't know if he got a yard. I feel like he got stopped at the line of scrimmage. Didn't even get a yard. I can't remember. Honestly, blacked out. I was shocked of how bad a play call that was in a big moment. It was like they just folded. They just gave up. They're like, we can't beat Ohio State. They're too good. Sorry, Urban Meyer. Here's a gift for you. Here's the game. It was just amazing to watch. And I heard some whispers from the Penn State cult. Some of my friends and stuff, some people were talking. Is James Franklin on the hot seat? Honestly, think about it. In the last couple years, I think he only has one win against ranked opponents. One win. Let that sink in real quick. One win against ranked opponents. And it was Ohio State last year. I'm trying to think off the top. Maybe they beat Michigan once ranked. I'm not sure. I think one win. How is he not on the hot seat? He wants to make this an elite program. He hasn't put in the work. Hasn't won the big games. I mean, they won a Big Ten championship a couple years ago. But that was the year where it was like a default win. Where they got beat by 40-something to Michigan. Pulled off. That might have been the year I'm thinking of. They pulled off the nail biter against Ohio State. Somehow the matchups and stuff. They got to play Wisconsin, but they didn't make the playoffs. They got the Rose Bowl instead. That's the only year I can think of where they had a great year, but they still didn't make the playoffs. That's the thing with Penn State. They want to be in the playoffs. They want to be in the top 4, and I don't think James Franklin can get you there. So here's the thing. Even though he's a great recruiter, he's bringing in tons of talent to Penn State. If he can't get you to the playoffs, you might have to cut your losses after this season, maybe after next season. Maybe you give him this season one more. But I don't see it happening. I don't see James Franklin taking you to the college playoffs, getting you a national championship game. I don't see it. I don't think he's a good enough coach. He's a good enough recruiter. He's proven that. He's got talent. That team is very, very talented, and it hurts my heart to say it, but that team can play football. And that's the thing. I watched the Penn State-Ohio State game on TV versus when I saw Penn State play at Heinz Field against Pitt. I watched them on TV, and boy, are they athletic. That, I think, is number one, the receiver, that slant pass that he caught. Amazing adjustment while running to catch that ball, and then he toasted the entire secondary. That, you can't coach speed. That was pure athleticism, pure speed. You can't coach it. They have talent. They have weapons. But James Franklin is not a good enough coach to push them over the edge, over the top. So the question remains, is James Franklin on the hot seat? There's a lot of whispers. People want to run him out of town. when you keep losing to big programs, the best in the Big Ten, like Ohio State, Michigan, Wisconsin, all these schools, and you can't get Penn State to the playoffs, people are going to want in your head. Here's the thing. Penn State also has to play at Michigan the weekend of November 3rd? I believe it's Saturday, November 3rd. They're probably going to flex that to a primetime game. I'm trying to go to the game. Should be fun. Should be a night game. Should be a lot of fun. If he can't go to the big house and get a win, there's going to be more than whispers in the Penn State call about running him out of town. There's going to be more than whispers. They lose at home to Ohio State when they had a 12-point lead in the fourth quarter. Should have had the game wrapped up. And then they go to the big house. If they go to the big house and get run out of the big house, if they lose by 20, 30 points, James Franklin is going to be on the hot seat. He's going to be uncomfortable. I don't know. It's going to be interesting how it plays out, but that's a big matchup now for James Franklin. I keep saying a big matchup for James Franklin, not Penn State. Of course, it's a big matchup for Penn State, but it might be more important for James Franklin to keep his job. I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but there's whispers. Well, sometimes whispers, they spread. So James Franklin, man, you better start winning against the big boys, the Ohio States, the Michigans. You better start beating the big boys, or you're not going to have a job much longer at Penn State. Because Penn State, their fan base, they demand excellence. They want playoff berths. They want national championship appearances, championships. They want it all. Even though you're a great recruiter and got to win the big game. So, I don't know. Maybe he's on the hot seat. We'll find out in a few weeks. But that game at Ann Arbor is going to be very interesting right now, especially if it's a primetime game. If Penn State drops two huge primetime games this year, and especially if James Franklin has another blunder at Michigan like he did at home, ooh, man, that seat's going to get really hot. It's going to get hot. But that was my wrap-up for college football for the week. I didn't really watch any other games other than that was my big one for the week. Shout out to WVU, though. They're number 9 in the nation now. Got a big win at Texas Tech last week like I anticipated. Now for homecoming this weekend, they got Kansas at home. Should take care of business there. They're gonna have a chance in the Big 12. They're gonna have a chance. So it'll be interesting how that pans out too. But there's not really any big games on my radar for this weekend. I think LSU is playing at Florida. It's like 5 versus 22 or something like that. Should be an interesting game. I think LSU would take care of business. But other than that, the only other one that's right, Notre Dame is playing at Virginia. Yeah, at Virginia Tech, I believe. Notre Dame's had a good year so far. They played some tough opponents early. I think they take care of business again. Notre Dame's rolling. They beat Stanford at home and Michigan at home. So now they got a road test finally. So we'll see how that goes. But that's all I got for college football. Now I got to get into my Pittsburgh Steelers, and this might take a while. It's at the game Sunday night. I have a lot of mixed feelings about them so far this season. They're 1-2-1. This is pretty much a disaster start for the Steelers. And the crazy thing is, if Chris Boswell makes that field goal week 1 and they survive the Cleveland Browns, they're sitting at 2-2, and I feel a whole lot better. The reason now I feel so bad is because they're 1-2-1. They now play this weekend home against the Atlanta Falcons, who just came off a bad loss themselves. I believe they're 1-3. So you have two, in my opinion, pretty good teams that are behind the 8 ball right now. Rough starts to the season. This is a huge game for both organizations. Huge game. I can't see the Steelers dropping to 1-3-1. It actually I feel nauseous just saying that. 1-3-1 with a Hall of Fame quarterback, the best receiver in football, and probably the best running back if he'll ever show up. Still hasn't shown up, hasn't signed the franchise tag yet. Thinking about the game against the Ravens, Sunday Night Football, I was shocked. Attendance was only 62,000. The home opener against the Chiefs was only 63,000. Stadium holds somewhere high 68,000, and they're not selling out games. It's very surprising. The home opener is always a big draw. Sunday Night Football against the Ravens, that stadium should have been packed. I was looking around, there's tons of open seats. There's a lot of problems. There's some major problems going on in Pittsburgh right now, and I don't know if it's the NFL as a whole. I don't know if people are angry with the organization. People are angry about last year, the whole anthem debacle. As far as the NFL is, as a whole, I don't know if people are tired of the poor refereeing. There's a lot of issues with football in general and in Pittsburgh, but there's clearly not the attendance. I know last weekend we tried to sell some season tickets. This weekend too, tickets aren't going like they usually do. Having trouble just selling tickets at face value, and that's absurd. Especially last weekend, Sunday night, home against the Ravens. Tickets should have been flying. People should have tickets marked up. That's a game you want to go see. That's a game you want to pay for. People don't even want to pay face value for the tickets right now. So, I don't know. I feel like there's between the Steelers not playing well, Bell being an asshole, there's a lot of controversy, drama surrounding the Steelers right now, the NFL, the poor refereeing. There's a lot of combining factors right now, and the people just aren't showing up to Heinz Field to watch the Steelers. They aren't. And it's not helping. They're playing They're playing poorly. They need to pull it around. They need to get it back on track this weekend. It's going to be a long season. It's going to be a very long season. If you start off 1-3-1 in a division where the Ravens now are 3-1, the Bengals are playing pretty well, and the Browns are no joke. They're going to play the Browns again in a few weeks. I'm not confident about that game. They should have won the first one. But if they drop another game to the Browns, and I say drop, but that tie essentially the Browns is a loss in my book. Should have beat the Browns. Should have took care of business. They should be 2-2 right now. See, that's the thing. You're 2-2 going in this game, and you beat the Falcons. You're 3-2. I'm feeling okay. Even if you lose the Falcons, and then you're 2-3, I'm okay. Because at that point, you lost to the Chiefs at home, and the Chiefs have been lighting the AFC West on fire. The Chiefs are playing well. The Chiefs and the Broncos are playing well for that matter. The AFC West is a tough division this year. I think the Raiders are a pretty good team. They're the worst team in that division. They're 1-3. The AFC West, they're pretty good. So you drop a game at home to the Chiefs. Okay, I can deal with it. Young quarterback, whatever. They're playing well. They're obviously a good team this year. You lose to the Ravens at home. Sunday Night Football, the Ravens-Steelers is always a coin flip. You don't know exactly what's going to happen. Okay, I understand. Then you lose to the Falcons at home, Matt Ryan. Okay, you're 2-3. I understand. The problem is, if you go 1-3-1, you don't have that second win, which could be huge for seeding purposes later in the season, depending on how the AFC North completely shakes out. But they need to beat the Ravens now. If they don't beat the Ravens, with the Ravens off to this hot start, the next time they play the Ravens are going to win the division. It's looking right now, if I had to pick right now who's going to win the division, I'd have to say the Ravens. Everything points to the Ravens winning the division. The Bengals could, but Bengals will be the Bengals here later in the season. Trust me, they always blunder. They'll be the Bengals. But the Steelers have to take care of business this week. If not, it's going to be a long season. And talking about, I got a lot to say. Looking at that game Sunday night, Pittsburgh's, other than the obvious problems with Bell not being there, the defense not being able to stop anyone, the offense is actually having some trouble right now. And I hate to say this, I don't even know, I might sound like an idiot for saying this, but this is the truth. The problem with the offense right now is Antonio Brown. It is. The problem with the offense is Antonio Brown. What I noticed in that Steelers game Sunday night at Pittsburgh against the Ravens, every big third down in the second half, Ben forced the ball to AB. And I don't know if that's him just relying on a star player or if he's trying to make Brown happy. But the fact of the matter is, Brown hasn't been happy this year. He didn't show up for the one day, the one meeting, whatever that was. He's been kind of jawing the media, jawing on the sideline to a coach a few weeks ago. It's not good. So I don't know if it's Ben's like, oh shit, it's third down, I need to make a play, let's force it to AB, or let's keep AB happy. But it's one of those things when you're a player and you have these things in the back of your mind, sometimes in big moments, they come out. And something's coming out with Big Ben. He played so well at certain times of the game, and then he played like a JV quarterback at other points. A lot of those third downs, I was clearly watching like him throw to AB in tight windows, double covers, trying to force the ball. It's like, why force it? You have three other options. If AB's not open, that probably means someone else is open. And I know it's easy to sit here and talk about that. I've never been a quarterback, especially not an NFL quarterback. But just looking at it from a few steps back, he's forcing the ball to AB. Another problem with the offense that I'm sick and tired of. Here's the thing. When you have an offense, you have to have big plays to be successful. You have to be able to take the top off of the defense and stretch the field. Stretching the field allows your running game to succeed. That's facts. People know that. If you stretch the field, you'll have more lanes, you'll have more opportunities to run inside. The defense will be spread out more. Problem is right now, the Steelers are trying to force Washington to be that deep threat. I saw multiple games now, multiple weeks, where Big Ben's chucking it downfield to Washington, and it's not working. He's not making the big plays. He's not making the big catches. So until he starts producing and making those big plays, the defense doesn't have to respect it as a viable option. They can play man on the outside. They don't have to have the safety help over the top. If they're not burning the defense deep, who cares? Let Ben throw it 40 yards downfield and no one catch it. There was multiple times in the last couple of weeks where he's tried to stretch the field and it's not worked. And I understand that you want to stretch the field, but the problem is you have to be realistic about it. If Washington isn't the guy to stretch the field, don't force it. Don't try to make him. And I don't think it's Ben. I think it's the offensive coordinator. I think it's the offensive coordinator wanting to stretch the field, which every offensive coordinator does. That's natural. That's how football works. You want to stretch the field. You want to open up the run game. It's one of those things. There's two ways you do it on offense. You stretch the field to open up the run game, or you utilize the run game to open up the passing game. The problem is right now they're trying to stretch the field with Washington, throw deep routes, take the top off the defense, and able to open up the inside to run the ball. That's fine. It's one of your options. But the problem is it's not really working right now. Here's the thing. If Le'Veon Bell comes back, it changes the whole dynamic of the offense. You can run the ball first and then allow it to open up the passing game. And that's the thing. He says he's coming back week 7. Oh my God, I hope he does. Right now, I hate him as a person, but the Steelers need him on offense. They need that Pro Bowl, that great, probably the best running back in the league on offense. They need help. Connor's done fine. Connor's done well. I've enjoyed watching Connor play. No doubt about it. He's a great guy. He's playing really well, but the problem is he's not Le'Veon Bell. Let's be honest here. Let's speak frankly. James Conner is not Le'Veon Bell, and that's fine. But the Steelers right now, they need all their best players. And talking about best players, I don't know what the defense is doing. I haven't seen Tuitt or Cam Hayward make any plays. Now, it's kind of hard, like I said, when you're at games to evaluate certain players, positions, different plays, stuff like that. Like, it's really hard when you're at the games, you're at the stadium. You don't have those replays. You don't have all the camera angles, all the certain things that you do when you watch a game on TV. But with the few games I've watched now on TV, with being at the stadium, I don't think that Cam Hayward or Tuitt are essentially making the plays they need to for that defense. Now, Joe Hayden got burnt deep last week on the one play, which I wasn't expecting. It ended up being a touchdown pass, but he hasn't been playing. I mean, he was hurt, so come back, okay, whatever. I'm okay with him. He'll probably play well. But the inside of that defense is non-existent. Cam Hayward's the captain in that defense. He needs to play like a captain. They're giving up way too many rushing yards inside, and it's hurting the defense. Now, here's the thing. The Steelers, while they were successful against the Buccaneers, is they brought pressure. They made Fitzpatrick uncomfortable. They went after him. They attacked him. They've made plays defensively. They did not go after Joe Flacco last week. They made him look elite again. They didn't go after him. They didn't pressure him. They didn't make him uneasy. They didn't force turnovers. As a defense, your best friend is getting pressure on the quarterback. If you get pressure on the quarterback, good things will happen. You'll have opportunities for sacks, for turnovers, for helping on third downs, bringing pressure, making the quarterback uncomfortable. It just increases your chances of getting off the field, in my opinion. Some people don't like to blitz heavy. That's fine. But clearly, when they pressured the Buccaneers, they made Fitzpatrick make mistakes, and they capitalized off it. They didn't do anything to Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco had all day to throw. He felt comfortable in the pocket. Joe Flacco made the correct reads, got the ball out, and essentially did enough to win the game at Pittsburgh. And also the running game, Steelers defense. The point I'm getting to here is the Steelers need to make some adjustments and some changes. And I think the first one, and I hate to say it, it needs to be on defense. I don't think Keith Butler is right for this team. He might have been right for this team 2 or 3 years ago when he had different pieces of the puzzle. But right now, with the personnel he has in his schemes and his essentially ideology of playing defense is not working this year. Hands down, has not worked and probably will not work for the rest of the season. The Steelers are going to be in big trouble for the rest of the season if they keep getting gashed up the middle and they aren't able to cover anyone or get pressure on the quarterback. That's the thing. On all phases of defense, they're getting killed. They aren't doing well on anything. They aren't rushing. They aren't getting pressure on the quarterback. They're not containing the run. They're especially not containing the inside run. And they're not covering anyone worth a damn. So those 3 factors right there lead to a piss-poor defense who are giving up multiple and many points every single weekend. And if the Steelers don't have Le'Veon Bell, and if they aren't putting up 30 to 35 points a game, they're going to lose a lot more this year than they win. And right there is the problem. The Steelers are not playing well enough on defense to win in the NFL. And I don't know if they just don't have the personnel. I don't know if it's Keith Butler. I think it's Keith Butler, but I'd start there. They need another linebacker, that's for sure. They need someone else in the secondary, but we can go on and on with what they need. The problem is right now, this is your personnel for the year. Unless you make a trade or a splash signing or whatever, and which is unlikely in Week 5 of the NFL, you need to utilize your personnel that you have to your best abilities. And right now, Keith Butler's not doing that, so I say, right now, make a change at defensive coordinator, and at least it might help. It might help. Who knows? But I feel like I rambled a lot about that. It's been rough as a Steeler fan. I got a lot of mixed opinions, but honestly, I think AB is hurting the offense. Big Ben on 3rd down is trying to rely too much on AB, whether it's because he's a star player or AB's unhappy and it's in the back of Ben's mind. I don't know. There's a lot of factors, a lot of things that could be there, or it could be the new offensive coordinator designing most of his 3rd down plays around AB, making AB Ben's first option, first read. But there's something wrong there. There's so many times in that game where he was hitting Vance McDonald, getting at the Juju, making good decisions, good reads, getting the ball out quickly. And then 3rd down come along, and all he's doing is forcing it. At the end of the game, it was like 3 minutes left or whatever. Steelers had like mathematically a chance to still come back, even though we knew they weren't going to. But it was like the first 3rd down. Forced the AB, it was a pick. Game over. The whole second half. The Steelers didn't play bad in the second quarter. They didn't play well in the first. They played pretty well in the second quarter, but the Steelers did not play well in the second half. They didn't make good adjustments at halftime. I feel like that's on coaching. And Ben was just trying to force the ball way too much to AB on 3rd downs. And I can't even remember thinking about the game, if the Steelers even converted a 3rd down in the 3rd or 4th quarter. I don't even think they did. No idea, but I know that Ben tried to force it to AB a lot, and it resulted in a lot of incompletions and 1 interception. So I don't know, it's frustrating. Hopefully the Steelers make some adjustments. They need a win at home against the Falcons. It's going to be desperate times in Pittsburgh if not. But I want to run through my Week 5 sports betting. Did okay last week, getting the overall year tally a lot closer to 50-50. Started off very poor in the first 2 weeks. Had rebounded Week 3 and 4, so going to go through the picks this week. So Colts are playing at the Patriots. Patriots -10 at home. I'm taking the Colts on the road. I think Andrew Luck plays well. Don't think they'll win, but I think they'll cover the 10 points. Falcons at Steelers. Steelers -3.5. I think the Steelers have been favored at every single game they played this year, and they're 2-1. I'm going to go with the Steelers. Steelers at home. I know that's being very biased there, but I'm going to take the Steelers at home versus the Falcons. They need a home win. They really do. It's going to be an ugly season. We got the Titans playing at the Bills. Bills are +4 at home. Love the home dogs, but I'm going Titans. Titans playing well. Took care of business last week against the Eagles. Broncos versus Jets. Jets home -1. Jets are -1 at home. Talking about the AFC West lighting the league on fire this year. AFC West is playing well. Broncos, Chiefs, Chargers. I'm taking the Broncos plus one at the Jets. I think that's a no-brainer. I think they're going to win straight up. That's an easy bet for me. And the Jaguars are going to Arrowhead. Talking about the AFC West, the Chiefs. Chiefs are -3 at home. I'm taking the Chiefs at home. Arrowhead's a hell of a place to play. It's a great home field advantage in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is playing well. I see no reason why not to take the Chiefs in this one -3. Packers playing at the Lions. Lions -1 at home. -1 I can't think or talk. Wow. Lions +1.5 at home against the Packers. I'll take the Packers on the road. Ravens, Browns. Browns +3 at home. I'm taking the Ravens. Giants at the Panthers. Panthers -6.5 at home. Taking the Panthers. Dolphins, Bengals. Bengals -5.5. Taking the Bengals at home. Raiders, Chargers in the AFC West matchup. Chargers -5 at home. Taking the Chargers. I'm getting a lot of home teams this week. I think a lot of the home teams have good matchups. It's good bet on the home team in the NFL. Cardinals are playing at the 49ers. 49ers are -4 at home. Like I'm saying, taking home teams. 49ers -4 at home. Vikings playing at Philadelphia. Eagles are -3 at home. I'm taking the Eagles. Rams versus Seahawks. Seahawks are +7 at home. This is a bet in the past I would have jumped all over and went a lot of money on Seahawks home dogs +7 at home in Seattle. Seattle, such a great home field advantage. But the Rams are too good this year. And the Seahawks aren't the Seahawks of the past. They don't have Earl Thomas. He just got hurt. They're losing their best defensive player. Bobby Wagner's hurt. I'm pretty sure Bobby Wagner's not playing. Richard Sherman is a 49er now. He's not there. Cam Chancellor retired. The Legion of Doom is no longer. They're the Legion of No One. Russell Wilson, I don't think, can do enough at home to beat the Rams. The +7, though, oh, man. 7 points at home is very enticing. But I got to take the Rams. The Rams -7 on the road against Seattle. The Rams are just a juggernaut right now. They're the best team in football, in my opinion. So Todd Gurley and company, they're playing well. Cowboys at the next game. Cowboys at Texans. The Battle of Texas. I'm taking the Cowboys on the road +3.5 against the Texans. I think the Cowboys play well this week. I'm not sold on the Texans. Deshaun Watson isn't doing what he did last year, coming off an injury. I like the Cowboys in that one. Redskins are traveling to the Saints. The Saints are -6.5 at home. I'm taking the Saints to cover this one. Drew Brees is going to put it up. Drew Brees will be the all-time leading passing yards after this game. Hats off to Drew Brees. It's Drew fucking Brees, man. That's all I got to say. I saw a crazy thing on ESPN. They've been doing this thing recently where they're like, essentially they're picking if someone would go somewhere else in their career and how it would change the landscape of the NFL for the last 15 years. I thought it was really interesting. They just did one on Drew Brees, and if the Chargers don't get rid of him and get Phillip Rivers and then essentially let him go over that whole thing, man, the NFL could have changed a lot. I know I read the thing, and Drew Brees almost went to the Dolphins and someone else. I can't remember. But obviously, he ended up a Saint. The last 10 years has happened the way it has happened. It's been very interesting, but it was just cool. I love those, like, the hypothetical, theoretical things. What if? It's just fun to read. But Drew Brees at home, he's gonna set the all-time leading passer record, and hats off to Drew Brees. It's been a lot of fun watching him throughout his career as a Saint. Won a Super Bowl, maybe wins another one this year. I don't know. It was Dan Patrick's early preseason Super Bowl favorite. I believe he took the Saints. So who knows? Saints might keep marching on. They didn't start the season out though particularly well. Let a lot of points up on defense, but I think the Saints will be fine. They got Drew Brees as quarterback. They'll win some games this year. They'll be fine. But that's all I got this week on Spaces or Laces. Basically, just a quick recap. James Franklin, possible hot seat. Hasn't won the big games for Penn State. I know he wants to become elite program and says he'll do everything possible to become elite instead of just being a great program. He recruits well enough to do it, but I don't think he's a good enough coach to become elite. So I think James Franklin in the next couple of years is going to be run out of Penn State. Don't think it'll be at the end of this year, but I think maybe then the next year, if he doesn't start knocking on the door to the playoffs and maybe some national championship bursts, I think James Franklin will be done at Penn State. Steelers offense is weird to say. I feel like I sound stupid saying it, but AB is the problem with the Steelers offense. Big Ben is locking on to AB too much on big third down plays. It's hurting the offense. It's honestly like a handicap right now. There's other players who could make plays on third down. There's been other players open on third down. He's got to go through his progressions. He's got a big, like, first down, second down, he's Big Ben. He's been making the appropriate reads, making the plays on third down. He's a JV quarterback. I don't know what's going on third downs right now with him, but he needs to play a little better on third downs. He's got to stop blocking on AB. Hopefully the Steelers gets Le'Veon Bell back week 7. Hopefully they have a record that allows them to make a run at the AFC North still, and they're not out of contention by the time he comes back, considering they're 1-2-1 at the moment. This weekend's matchup against the Falcons is a pretty big one for both Atlanta and the Steelers. I think it's going to be hard for either team to climb back out of the hole that they've put themselves in if they lose this week. Because the Falcons at that point will be 1-4, the Steelers 1-3-1. It would be very hard for either organization to come back from that. But that's all I got. It's been fun. It's been real. I'll see you guys next week.